Welcome to the Miracles and Grace podcast. I'm the host, Grace Hackett, and today we have probably my favorite guest that we'll ever have on the podcast because we have my husband, Davey, here.
I don't know if that's true.
Welcome to the pod, honey.
Thank you so much. Your mom hasn't been here yet, so I guess I am your favorite.
That's not true, honey.
I'm just kidding.
Thanks for coming. This is going to be so fun.
This is awesome.
I just want to say that this podcast literally would not be happening if it were not for Davey. He got me all of my podcast equipment for Christmas. Like when I told him I felt like this was something that God wanted me to do. He's been the biggest champion of it since the beginning. He got me all this equipment. Every idea I've had, I think for me, starting this whole thing has felt overwhelming. And he's followed up because sometimes when I get overwhelmed, I just kind of put things off. And he's been really good. Accountability, like staying on me, being like, have you done this? Have you done that? Do you need me to order this? Let me help you book this amazing studio that we're using. Shout out Gold Pacific Studios. You've just been such a champion for me in this.
Well, I will say, I did feel convicted one time when, I think it was like, this was a couple years ago, because this has been going on for a while, but I did feel convicted because you asked for podcast equipment, and I was like, I feel like this is just going to be like a little, like a thing, and then it just never happens. Like, that happens a lot.
That's fair.
And, I didn't do it. And then you felt convicted one day at church because you're like, you kept feeling, God, I need you to do this. And then I was like, man, I do not want to be the reason why you don't do this. And God gets mad at me. So here's the podcast equipment. And half of it, we realized, you buy a camera and you have to buy a lens and a SIM card.
Yeah.
Like, that's like buying a car without, like, it doesn't have tires on it. Like, you can't even use it.
We also didn't have memory cards. We literally got here the first day to record the podcast, and he got me this amazing, like, there's a name for that case. I don't know.
Pelican case.
A really cool Pelican case full of podcast stuff. And our friend Dan owns a studio, and he's graciously letting us use it. And we got here, and he was helping us set up everything. And he was like, you're missing so much stuff. We set up the cameras, no lenses, no memory cards. So thank God for Dan, because half of this stuff is his.
Yeah.
But that's
so cool.
Good.
But yeah, it's a privilege to watch you do this. Like, I just feel like we both, I know you definitely didn't want to do this. I definitely didn't want you to do this because we just have a lot going on. But it is a privilege to watch you do this and, like, take it by the horns and get after it. Yeah, finally.
Thanks, honey.
I'm excited to hear. I did hear the first episode. It was awesome.
Thank you. I sent the first episode to Davey to listen to, and I was like, let me know what you think. And he said, that was so awesome. Are you allowed to use nose spray when you're pregnant? Because one of my worst symptoms of pregnancy in my pregnancy with Crew and in this pregnancy is that, like, my nose is swollen, like the inside of my nose, and so I just can't breathe for like 9 months.
I feel like it's 24/7. It doesn't matter.
I know, but it's so much worse when I'm pregnant.
Okay.
But he was like, it sounded amazing, but maybe some nose spray, which I can't use nose spray. So here we are. So sorry if I'm congested.
Cool. So what are we going to talk about? I feel like, so we have an hour. I feel like this is the first time without kids. We have an hour just to talk.
Well, not the first
time.
We
should talk about our schedule.
Yeah. That could take up a whole hour just talking about our schedule. Yeah. Okay. One thing that I definitely wanted to talk about was obviously this podcast. I want to talk about miracles, at least to an extent, on every episode. And I feel like an area that we've seen a lot of miracles in our life was just through having kids. Because when we started trying to get pregnant, Davey wanted to get pregnant before I did because we have a 7-year age gap, if you don't know that about us. And so I graduated college, and I graduated college in August of 2018, and we got married in September of 2018. And I was 22, and at the time he was 29.
28.
27
when I met you.
Yeah. But
26 when I met you. 27.
He's trying to make himself sound younger.
Yeah. No. I remember we met. You want to tell the story?
Yeah. Do you want to tell the story?
I can. So this is the way that I remember it. Lauren Akins came up to me one day. I was at their house for like a party.
Which Davey was friends with the Akins because he and Tom Surratt went to college together. And then I became friends with Lauren. So they were like our mutual connection.
Yeah. So I was at their house, and then Lauren came up to me and was like, hey, I have this girl I really want you to meet. She's going to come today. So y'all need to meet and let me know what you think. We didn't end up meeting that night, right? Or we kind of...
Maybe briefly, but...
Yeah, met a minute. So we didn't really talk that night. I didn't follow up with Lauren on it. But then at Willa Gray's baby shower, I met you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to some of our buddies from college, and I was like, hey, is Grace, like, is she single? And they're like, no, she just started dating another guy. And I was like,
which, what's crazy is the night that Lauren tried to set us up, he was talking, not like dating someone else, but talking to someone else that night. And I actually started talking to, like, kind of dating somebody else that night that Lauren wanted to set us up.
Yeah.
So we dated for 9 months. And then,
yeah. And this is kind of like a movie, because I remember in my mind, I was probably 50 yards away from you, and I remember making eye contact with you, which I'm sure you don't remember. But I was like, this is going to happen. I was like, this is going to happen. I'm just going to wait it out. I'm going to prepare myself, because when it happens, I'm going to be ready to jump. And I remember texting Lauren that night and was like, hey, your friend Grace, and I did like a hard eyes emoji. She's like, she just started dating somebody. I'll keep you updated. And then we met. You want to take it up from here?
Yeah, so then I dated that guy for 9 months, and then we broke up. And a month after we broke up, I was at CMA Fest, and I was in college. It was summer going into my senior year, and I had a bunch of my friends in town for CMA Fest, and they were all staying with me, and they're all coming to experience Nashville and do the thing. And I also had a wild phase in college, so like everybody wanted to go out and go downtown, and basically we went to see Mayfest, and we were out downtown every night. And 3 nights in a row I run into Davey in downtown, and the first thing he asked me is like, hey, where's your boyfriend? And I was like, we actually broke up a month ago. And it was a really brief conversation. I remember thinking, like, he's cute. I had always thought you were cute from afar, but that was the first time I felt like I'd gotten to talk to you more when I was single. And so anyways, it was just crazy. That in itself is miraculous that we ran into each other.
That's not how I remember. I remember, like, I honestly thought you were following
you.
You were like looking at my Instagram, see, where is he at?
I didn't follow you on Instagram at that point.
I know. Okay. I don't know how. But I was like, well, maybe her friend saw me and was like, hey, Davey's here. And then you came.
None of my friends knew who he was. Yeah, because when we started dating, he was like, so every night, were you hoping you would run into me? And I was like, no.
Here's another funny thing. I was out with my buddy. I had a cigarette in my ear. I don't smoke cigarettes.
Right.
But I had a cigarette in my ear. I don't know why. I was with a buddy that did. And I remember when I was talking to you, I was like, oh my gosh, I have a cigarette in my ear. And I like went down, because she hadn't seen it yet. I like went down and it fell and hit her foot. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to think I smoke cigarettes. And do you remember that?
No, I didn't notice it. Also, I said I referenced this, but I definitely went through like a wild phase in college and then was really depleted and depressed. And around that time, this is just like a quick side story, but as we're talking about like being downtown in downtown Nashville and a cigarette in your ear and stuff, I feel like it's good to just explain. I was not in a good place my sophomore year because I was just so depleted by this lifestyle that's so common. I went to the University of Tennessee, and it's just normal. That's just like what everybody does. You just go out all the time, and that's how you meet people and be social, but it's just not a healthy lifestyle physically or spiritually or emotionally. And I grew up a believer. Like, I grew up at a Christian school. I've never not believed in God, but there was definitely a period where I like wasn't walking closely with the Lord. We could probably do a whole other podcast on this, but long story short, when I became friends with Lauren, my sophomore year, I was like, this is the lifestyle that I want to live. Like, they have a healthy relationship with alcohol. They're spending their time doing life-giving things. But then I would be back at college and all my friends were going out and stuff. And so anyways, my junior and senior year, I was not at Tennessee, especially on the weekends a lot. Like I was pretty much always home on the weekends, especially once we started dating and got engaged. But my college friends, that was kind of what we did. Like we went out. And so when they came in and visited, I was in a much better place emotionally and spiritually. And I was really walking with the Lord. But we were out downtown and Davey was in a great place too. But he was single and his single buddies wanted to go to CMA Fest. And so all of that said, it just reinforces that the fact that we ran into each other 3 nights in a row at CMA Fest in downtown Nashville was miraculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
then we went on a date.
Well, the fourth night we didn't run into each other, but me and Tuta went and watched the Preds game because at the time the Preds were like crushing it. That's our hockey team in Nashville. And we were watching the Preds game and I posted something on my Instagram story about us watching the Preds game at this restaurant, and Davey responded and was like, oh my gosh, I literally had plans to come there to watch the game, and then we ended up pivoting and going somewhere else, but that would have been 4 nights in a row running into you. That would have been so crazy. And I was like, yeah, it would have been. It was great seeing you, whatever. And so then he said, I think you said like,
I almost went there.
No, but then I think it transitioned into, I would love to take you to dinner sometime.
Oh, yeah. And then
so that was
then
on
we
Sunday.
went out to Moto.
Well, I knew that
I spent way too much money. And
the Brussels sprouts are average.
Oh, so average. And then you left them in my car.
Wait, can I say one other thing?
And I was like, oh, she left them in my car so I could come back.
The Brussels?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually feel like I may have thought about that. It was a great first date, but I knew I was leaving for Uganda on Saturday, and that was on Sunday. So when he messaged me and said we should go to dinner, I'm like, I have a really limited window here. So I was like, yeah, we should. How's tomorrow? And he was like, I can do that. So then we hung out Monday and we went to dinner. And then it was so great. We hung out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He helped. He came to my house, helped my family pack up all our stuff to go to Uganda. And then I left for Uganda on Saturday. And we talked pretty much the whole time I was there, like as I had Wi-Fi and power or electricity. But after that, we were just dating. And that was in June of 2018. And then we got engaged in December of 2018 in my parents' backyard. And then got married. If I'm skipping anything, you're welcome to revisit. But got married in September. Wait, sorry. That was on 2017. We started dating June of 2017, got engaged December of 2017. I graduated in August of 2018. Then we got married in September of 2018.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I remember, so that's a miracle in itself because I remember writing down just the things I wanted in a wife. Like, I feel like my faith during that singleness, that time, I mean, I grew so much. Like, I was going to the Belonging. That place just, like, changed my life spiritually.
Which is a church here in Nashville.
Yeah, it's a church here in Nashville called The Belonging. And she literally, it would just, like, the list, she just, like, was a 10 on every single one of them. And I was like, I remember driving and there's a stop sign next to her house. And I was like, I just remember like crying. Yeah. I was like, man, God, like, I'm going to be so bummed if you started this and it's just not going to work. But turns out she loved me.
Well, words of affirmation is my love language and you're about to make me cry. So I'm going to have you on this podcast more often.
Oh, and also this is a funny too, because my brother told me, he's like, hey, first date. And this is so stupid. He's like, first date, you should take cash so you can pay with cash. And she can see, like, so I brought, like.
See what?
So she could see, like, you got money. And
so
I brought
stupid.
cash out, and the bill came, and I brought cash out, and I was, like, counting. I was like, I'm, like, way short here. So I couldn't even use it anyway, so I had to use my credit card. But
that's so dumb.
It's so stupid.
That's so dumb.
I need to tell him that.
Yeah. Also something crazy is you and our friend Chris, who we actually just had lunch with, we're both single at the same time and we're doing a lot of life together when I met you.
Yeah.
And Davey had told him, like, I'm going to marry Grace Mernick. And so when we actually started dating, Chris was like, what? Because for years, Davey had been telling him, I think, or like, I'm going to marry Grace Mernick. Even when I was dating the other guy, he was like, I just feel like they're going to break up and it's going to be me.
Yeah. I knew. I don't know what it was, but it is it's a crazy feeling when you go out on a first date and it's your wife or your husband, I'm sure. But yeah, it was incredible. What a miracle in itself, right there.
Yeah, it was so good. So then fast forward, and Davey was like, I think you would have been ready a year in to have kids, and I was kind of like, okay, I just graduated. We're adjusting to marriage. The adjustment to marriage was hard at the beginning.
Oh yeah, that was really hard.
Which we could also probably do a whole podcast episode about. We tried to do premarital counseling, did not have a good fit, and I was in Knoxville and Davey was in Nashville, so it was like really hard to coordinate schedules with a counselor. But my biggest piece of advice to couples now is to do premarital counseling, because we did it after we got married, because we were having conflicts about all these things that you talk about in premarital counseling that we didn't get to talk about. And when we did it afterwards with the most amazing Christian counselor, I'm like such a big advocate that your counselor should be a Christian if you're a believer, because if not, then what's the truth that they're rooted in, that they're pointing you towards? It just changed everything for us. And so, but that was after we were like, why are we arguing so much? I was like, I think we just need to basically do premarital counseling now, because I kept hearing what it did for my friends' marriages, and I was like, I think we need that. And it was life-changing. And our marriage is in such a good place now. But with kids, Davey was ready a lot earlier than I was, and he was really patient, like waiting for me to get to be ready. And so when I finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to start trying, we started trying, and it took us a year or 11 months to conceive. And also, this is just kind of a crazy story, but, you know, I went into it being like, I'm kind of okay if it takes a couple months, but then once you get months and months into seeing negative tests, it gets really defeating. And by the time we actually got pregnant with Crew, which we'll talk about, I was so ready to have a baby. And like the negative tests were really hard on me at the end.
Well, everybody around us was getting pregnant.
Yeah, because we started trying in November of I'm going to mess up the years. 20.
This isn't your strong suit.
No,
These are the years.
Every time I talk about years on the podcast, I mess them up. Okay, basically we started trying in November, and then the following March, Lauren got pregnant by surprise with Lily. And then Macy.
All of our whole
small group got pregnant.
Yeah.
And Lauren was not trying. Everybody else started trying after we did and got pregnant before we did. And so that was hard. But also I learned so much in that season just about like finding true joy for your friends who are experiencing what they desire, even if you're desiring it too and you're not getting it. God taught me a lot in that. Also could probably be a separate podcast. But what's crazy is, so when we went on our honeymoon, we went to St. Lucia. And when we were in the airport, Davey looked at me and was like, I know a lot of people make friends on their honeymoon. Not us. He looked around the airport. He was like, none of these people are becoming our friends. And I was like, okay, that's fine. No friends. So we get to our honeymoon. And of course, we end up making friends with 2 different couples who were so awesome. And we still keep in touch with them. And they're great. But this relates to our trying to conceive story, because fast forward, we're 11 months into trying to conceive. And, you know, they say, or they did at the time, I don't know if they still say this, but at a year is like when, if you're going to pursue IVF or IUI, like that's a good time after a year of trying to pursue that. So we're trying to navigate, like, do we pursue adoption next? I think that's kind of what we had landed on, was like, if we don't get pregnant this month, then we know that we've always been interested in adoption. Like, we're just going to pursue that first. And basically on the 11th month, one of our honeymoon friends FaceTimed us, and we didn't know that they had been trying to conceive for years, but they FaceTimed us and they were like, we've been trying to get pregnant for 2 years and we're pregnant, and we use this stuff called pre-seed. I won't get into the weeds of how it works, but I've talked about this on other podcasts. I've posted about this on my social media, because after 2 or maybe even 3 years of them trying to conceive, they got pregnant the first month they used this stuff called pre-seed. You literally get it on Amazon. It's $20. It helps with sperm motility. So we order pre-seed, and that month we get pregnant with Crew. And I was telling Davey, it's just so crazy looking back. It's miraculous looking back that he was like, we are not making friends on our honeymoon. We made these great friends.
Yeah, they're such good people too. They're so fun. We had a blast.
They like made our week.
I don't know about that.
It was an amazing week regardless, but think about the level.
Yeah, it was so fun. And we hung out since then, and they're great people. But
yeah,
I feel like if if Pre-Seed knew how many people you've gotten on Pre-Seed,
Yeah.
like they would like send you.
Yeah, I should be sponsored.
Yeah.
I should be trying to sponsor this podcast.
They send you 1,000 bottles of Pre-Seed.
Yeah. I don't know that I need that,
Yeah, we don't
but
need that.
I have gotten legit. I mean, it's probably over 1,000 messages from people who have heard me talk about it and used it, and it's worked.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to have a baby, it's worth a shot. It doesn't fix every problem, but I think a common problem is sperm motility, and people don't know it, and it fixes, or it can fix that.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's just so crazy that we were, like, went into the honeymoon being like no friends, made these amazing friends, and the timing of those friends telling us about them getting pregnant. I don't know. Who knows what our life would look like right now had we not known them and they had told us about that. Like, who knows how long it would have taken us to conceive. Maybe at some point somebody would have told us about Pre-Seed, but I've never had someone bring up Pre-Seed to me besides them.
Yeah.
It's come up in a lot of conversations since because I know about it, but that to me is just so cool. And then both of our other pregnancies were surprises. Which Bear, we would have started to try for a second soon. So like when we found out about him, we weren't floored by it. We were kind of like shocked, but we would have started trying soon anyways. Whereas this baby, we were kind of tapping the brakes. Like we were actively preventing. I talked about this some on my social media, but so crazy how it happened. I think we should tell the story about Noah's dream too.
Oh yeah.
Basically, when we found out we were pregnant this time, Davey texted me right after I had taken the test and said, "When did we conceive? Was it January 16th?" And I was like, "I don't know. Why?" And he said, "Because that's when Noah, our pastor, texted us that he had a dream." And basically, Noah had texted us on January 16th and said, "I had a dream," or it was the morning of the 17th. So he had the dream on the 16th. And he said, "I had a dream that we were on a hayride and Davey was holding a baby girl." And when I went and looked at my Aura Ring app, which Aura should not sponsor me because that's what we were using to prevent pregnancy. And basically, I guess Aura predicts your ovulation, but then at the end of the month, it takes all of your body temperatures into account and it confirms it on a certain day. So basically, when I clicked on my Aura Ring app, I went into it thinking I had this predicted ovulation date, and it had recalibrated and confirmed it on January 16th. So literally the night he had that dream about Davey holding a baby girl on a hayride, we conceived, and it ended up being a girl.
Well, he sent me that, and I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah, I didn't even.
And then
back.
like weeks later, I was like, he texted me, or when you FaceTimed me and said we were pregnant. This time she FaceTimed me, and I was working, and she was like, "Hey, I'm pregnant," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You're gonna just hit me with that?"
Which is a third. I did screen record the FaceTime, but I don't think I did it
really
with audio.
Oh,
I didn't know.
We need to go back and look at that.
Yeah.
But
That's
so I start thinking about it, and I go back to Noah's text, and he's like, "Yeah, I had a dream. It was all of us, and you had a baby girl on your lap. It was the same day that we conceived, that we found out." So I called Noah. I was like, "Man, like we just found out we were pregnant. Like, I mean, how insane would this be if it's a baby girl?"
Which, if anyone's going to get a prophetic word for you, I would think it would be your pastor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's so in tune with everything. He's an awesome pastor.
Yeah.
It'll be good to have him on here. He's gonna kill it. But yeah, it was so cool. Like when you hear those kind of stories, you're just like, man, this little girl's meant to be here. And I mean, I've wanted a daughter since I was little. Like, I remember being like 10 years old and be like, man, I hope I have a daughter.
That's so sweet.
And then having 2 boys, I was like, man, if this is a boy, I'm going to be so mad.
Okay, here a few things for context. Number 1, when we first started trying to get pregnant, Davey always said, "I feel like I need a girl to soften me." Because Davey's house that he was raised in, his parents are amazing. But it was just not like super emotional. He was raised in a house with 4 boys and 1 girl. So people probably don't know this about you, but it's twins, boy and girl, and then boy, 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 boy. So much testosterone in their house, and just not very emotional or expressive. And that's something that you've grown in so much since we got married, because my house is the opposite. We grew up with 5 girls and 3 boys, lots of emotions, always talking about our feelings. And like my love language, I just said this earlier, but it's words of affirmation. So that's something that Davey's gotten so much better at over the years, because he's like, well, of course I think these things about you. And I'm like, right, but you have to tell me and express them and communicate. And you really have gotten so much better at that.
Yeah, it's hard if you don't grow up, like, I mean, anything. Like, one of the best things that I learned in counseling was just the past of my parents.
Yeah.
Or like your family tree, like, why are people the way they are? It's not because you were born like that. You were literally raised.
Born by who you were raised.
Right. Generational curses are like a real thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard to be that person that stops it. And I remember talking with Don Hasselback. He actually just passed away, but his dad was he was tough on him. And I remember thinking, man, he completely changed generations because of, he would got in his word every day, every morning, praying for his family for hours. And I'm like, man, that guy, he changed generations to come. And like, that's hard to do, especially when you're raised not seeing that from your father.
Yeah.
So, man, what an incredible life that guy lives.
Also, one thing that is sweet about Don, and I love that you brought him up, just to be able to honor such an awesome person, but literally the morning that he passed, he had been journaling and wrote my dad's name in his journal, which was really sweet and meant a lot. But I was telling somebody, well, a couple things I want to say. Number one, he raised 3 boys, and the men that he raised are so amazing. Like, all of his sons are amazing. They're raising amazing families. If anybody lives in Nashville, you probably know one of the Hasselback families, and they're just like salt of the earth. But I think of that, and with you, it's like you always thought that you needed a girl to soften you, but you don't. Like, you are such a great dad to our boys, and I see the way I could cry talking about it. I'm going to try not to, but that you just are always telling them that you love them and loving on them and hugging them and are like so involved. And it's like things that I have told you this recently, but things that you said for years that you were scared of being as a father, you're the opposite. And so, you know, you look up to Don saying that he's breaking generational curses, but so are you. And I already see that with our boys. And so it's like our boys have, call it softening you if you want. Like, I think you're a tender-hearted person, and having kids just really tapped into your tender heart. And I can't wait to watch what a girl does to you, because you're going to be
I can't
buddy.
Wait. Yeah, I think I was born to be a girl dad.
Yeah, I really wanted a girl too.
I love I'm so glad we had boys first.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, God knows what you need. But I don't know, just having time with Don, like, what a blessing that was for me. Like, that guy, he lived out his faith so well.
Yeah.
And I was even able to tell him, like, before he passed away, it was like weeks before he passed away, but I was like, man, you literally changed, because he was talking to me about his dad and just how he grew up. And I was like, man, you completely changed your path of your family. Generations underneath you that, are just changing the kingdom for the good.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, basically one of the things that I think we're also just saying is, or that we've said a lot since we were in counseling, is when you understand that everyone is a product of who they were raised by, it gives you so much grace for people. Like, you've said that about people in your family that you've wondered, like, why did they do things the way that they did? And when you go to counseling, and we made this whole tree, like a family tree, it's called a genogram. And you look at, like, with your parents, how did their parents raise them? Because their parents raised them this way, or in this context, like, what was their financial status? What was their, like, what resources did they have access to, basically? Were they believers? What were their parents like? Were they raised in the Great Depression? You know what I mean? There's so many factors that influence the way that people raise their family, and when you understand that about someone, it just gives you so much more grace for them to be like, they're a product of who raised them.
And not just grace, but you actually understand why they are who they are.
Yeah.
It's like, of course
it makes sense.
Yeah, of course they're going to be like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, we both of us have great parents, and it just, it doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna, we'll do something wrong with, how we parent. Everybody's got something,
Yeah. Something else that I would love to talk about is, and I would say that this is miraculous too. We were actually talking about this at small group last night, but when I was pregnant with Crew, we lost Davey's mom really unexpectedly and tragically 2 months before I had Crew. So we lost her in May, and then I had Crew in July. And that was something that, like, when I was delivering Crew, Davey was really struggling with, because he had this fear of, like, he just went through such a big loss, obviously. And I just remember being in labor and you being emotional, being like, I can't even think about losing you or this baby, especially after waiting for
Yeah.
Crew for so long.
Well, also just, my mom not being there.
Totally. It was a lot.
But also, I'll say this, Lauren Akins told me, she was like, man, I just feel like your mom met Crew in heaven.
Oh.
And there's so many things that I feel like had happened after that. And I'm like, man, I 100% think that's true.
Oh.
And I'll tell this story. I was in California. And so I was this is the first time I've been in California. Actually, second time. First time I played baseball there, so I didn't get to see California at all. But I was there for one of my good buddies, has like a concert there every year. And they do this like big, they support a charity there, and then have awesome bands play. And I was staying at Dan Ballard's house, this is Dan's studio. But I remember going to this coffee shop, and I look at this table, and there's one book on the table, and it's sitting upright. And I go over there, I look at it, and it has a donkey on it. And the title's just Davey, and it's spelled exactly like my name, Davey. So I'm like, is this somebody's book, or are they selling this? So like I just grab it, and I go up to the front, and I'm like, hey, is this book for sale? It's like, yeah, it is. So I just I ring it up, and it was like $40, and I was like, this is insanity. Like, what is this? Like, California prices are crazy. So I bought this book, and I put it into my backpack, and I didn't think of it again for a while. And then we were, like, a couple weeks later, we were at Grace's cousin's wedding in Chicago. We were in a hotel. And I remember, I'm like, man, I forgot I bought this book when I was in California. So I pick it up, and me and Grace start reading it in bed. Do you remember?
Yeah, we left the reception early because I was, like, about to pop.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was not feeling well. So we went back to the hotel, and Davey was like, you have to see this book that I got.
And I've never, like, even opened it yet. So, like, we start reading it, and it's like, it's about this donkey named Davey. And he goes to, like, all these different animals and is like, hey, like, he goes to a bird. He's like, hey, I want to fly like you. And the bird's like, you can't do that. You're a donkey. He laughs at him. So he goes through all these animals, and he can't do any of this stuff.
He's basically like trying to find his purpose.
Yeah, he's trying to find his purpose. Like, what did God give him that he can do? So eventually, skipping on to the end, but this guy comes up to him and is like, hey, will you ride me into town? And so he's like, yeah, I'll ride you into town. So he starts riding him into town. He goes over this hill, and he starts hearing these faint noises of Hosanna. And, like, we're reading this, and I'm like, what is it? Like, what is happening? This is a Christian book. We had no idea it was even a Christian book. But we hear this, like, we read this as, like, Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna. And Davey starts figuring out that he is carrying the Savior of the world on his back, and he's going into this town. He's like, man, God called me something way higher, way bigger than anything of these other animals. And I remember just, like, reading that, and I'm like, that is so insane. Because I felt like, this was right before my mom died, so I was like, I always talk to my mom about, like, life and, like, what am I going to do? And she's always like, you just got to trust God and all this stuff. And I got this book, and after I read it, I was like, man, this is such a sign that my mom is in a better place.
Yeah, and that God's gone before you, and it does have exactly what she said he had planned for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, like, crying reading it.
Yeah.
In the hotel room, because it was so sweet.
You know, it's funny. I was in a workout, like, small group thing for a while, and when it was my time to share, I read that book, and I was just, like, weeping in front of, like, 8 men. like reading like a kid's
a good
book.
pump.
Yeah. But yeah, it was golly, and I reached out to that author and was just like, man, this book, because you can't find that book anywhere. You can't buy it. So I was like, for the longest time, I was like, I can't figure out what book, like who wrote this thing. But I finally figured it out, and I emailed her, and then I contacted her on Instagram, and she responded. She was like, "This is such a blessing that you reached out and told me this."
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that. I just thought she didn't email you back for a while, but maybe then you reached out.
Yeah, no, she never emailed me back, but I Instagram messaged her.
Oh, I don't think you
I slid in her DMs, and she came back at me.
You're 2 for 2 with that working out.
Yes.
Something that I love that story so much, and something else that I think is worth mentioning when just in talking about your mom and her legacy is, so after she passed, your dad like flipped on a dime and really, like, he would have said he was a Christian, but he like really gave his life to Jesus. He got baptized. And one of the things that you've said that I just think is so powerful is like, if we had to lose my mom in order for my dad to go to heaven and spend eternity with us, then it's worth it. And that's something that I've carried so much with me just through this with my dad, is like having an eternal mindset of the eternal impact that really hard things can have. And that's what makes it worth it. And I feel like that's living with an eternal mindset will probably be a recurring theme on this podcast.
For sure. Eternal mindset, that reminds me of my favorite miracle.
Tell me about it.
My favorite miracle. Do you have a favorite miracle?
Yes.
What is it?
Mine, like in the Bible?
Yeah.
Mine is probably the miracle where Jesus is in that house and there's what?
The paralyzed man?
The paralyzed man.
That's mine too.
Okay, well, we can talk about why, but the reason I love it, one of them is, we were actually reading this, ironically, last night in small group, and I just love, like, his friend's dedication to get him to Jesus. And in Mark, when it tells that story, it says they literally dug through the roof. And I've never picked up on that detail until last night. And I was like, that's so crazy that they dug through the roof to get him in there. But we talked about this in the first episode with Bria. I was talking about borrowed faith, like borrowing faith from your friends in the moments when you feel weak. Yeah. Or like you don't have faith of your own. And his friend's faith is such a testament to the importance of community. Yeah. And having community who's basically going before Jesus on your behalf.
Yeah. Sometimes all you need is a friend to, create that or jumpstart that miracle. Yeah. I feel like, man, we've had that just in our life, just with our small group. And I remember staying after small group and praying with Lauren and TR about just like my work and just changing jobs. Yeah. And something switched in that moment. I feel like I was ready to jump. Yeah. It's hard to do, like, especially when you have a family. And
yeah, for context, Davey was in medical sales for 10 years.
Yeah, around 10 years.
About 10 years. And it was just not, some people love it, but for us it was not a good quality of life. His quality of life was not good. But when you are established, that's a very specific career, you know what I mean? And I feel like when you were probably 30.
Yeah, I was like 32 when I switched. 31, 32 when I switched, so it was
really scary.
But that moment, it just kind of, I remember they just spoke so much life into me, and I was like, man, I'm going to do this. Like I feel like I've got people surrounding me that I'm able to do this. But I feel like I love that miracle. That's my favorite miracle as well.
Why? Because of the friends' faith?
Yeah, I love the friends. I'll hope I could be that friend. But also, I love how Jesus heals, or I guess he forgives him for his sin before he heals him. And which tells us, the result of sin is far worse than being a cripple here on earth. And like, I don't think we'll ever really grasp that until we are in heaven. But,
Yeah.
Obviously that's behind the miracle of Jesus dying on a cross and
For sure.
being risen and saving us from hell. But
yeah. I feel like I need to ask every guest this question because it's such a good question.
yeah, I mean, I thought you did, but
Well, no, but I'm going
I
to
asked
start
you.
now. Yeah, you did.
You should do that.
Also, this is not about that miracle, but another thing we read last night in small group in Mark was when Jesus heals the man with leprosy. And something that I thought was really interesting is like the man reached out and touched him, which would have been hugely frowned upon because leprosy is such an intense disease and it's so easily spread that if you're a leper, you're outcast from society. And so for him to reach out and touch Jesus, if he wasn't the Son of God, would have been so crazy. But he reached out and touched him, and then one of the things we were talking about last night was it says Jesus was indignant, which when we were talking about it, I googled what does indignant mean because I was like, I don't know that word off the top of my head. And it basically means angry at something that's unfair, and was the gist of what Google said. And then when I googled why was Jesus indignant about when he had this interaction with the leper, and it said that he was indignant, like angry at just the brokenness that this man was living in, like just so broken for him. And the man said, if you're willing to heal me, please heal me. And Jesus said, he said he was indignant, and he said, I'm willing. And I also just thought that was so cool. That was one of my big takeaways from last night talking about it. It was just like God's burdened by our brokenness, like the things that we're sitting in. He was angry that this man had to live this life because of the brokenness of the world. Like that's God's heart, is that it makes him sad and angry when we go through things that make us sad and angry, you know?
Yeah. Well, that also reminds me of Mark when Jesus tries to heal the demon-possessed man, and he tells his followers, he's like, some things can only be cast out through prayer. Mm. Man, it shows you just how like powerful the enemy is, but also how powerful prayer is.
Yeah.
And like that's the start. That's your start of a miracle is through prayer.
Yeah. There's this sermon that Davey's listened to like half of that I need to link in the podcast notes. I also feel like it's going to come up a lot in this season, but it's about the judgment day for Christians, which has always really freaked me out, and this completely reframed how I view Judgment Day. But basically it just talks about how we get crowns, different types of crowns for different things, different ways that we live our life. And it's talking about, it goes through all of these people who were doing really extraordinary things, and they like built up the church in ancient Rome, and one of them was persecuted in Japan through this martyr era of Christians. And then it gets to this one woman, and it just says like she was a stay-at-home mom with her sister with special needs, but her prayer impacted millions of people. And Jesus says like everyone who is going into heaven, he says, stand up if your salvation was impacted by this woman's prayer. And it was like millions of people stood up, and she wasn't leading the charge to build the Roman church. She was just, in air quotes if you're just listening to this, but she was just a stay-at-home mom or single woman. I can't remember, but it was just talking about the impact of prayer and how that impacts millions, and it kind of goes along with what you're saying.
Yeah. I have another question for you. So okay. We got this question the other day, and it was, if you've been reading the Bible and you've been praying and you still don't feel anything, why do you think that is, and what was your advice?
Okay, for context, Annabelle, my sister, got this. She was messaging. She's been talking to somebody on Instagram that I guess was like wanting to seek out God and start reading the Bible and doing all the things. And she FaceTimes us, and it's mass chaos. It's dinner time. It's me and Davey and the boys, and we're having spaghetti. So like it was just so chaotic. And she FaceTimes me, and she was like, "Hey," they're screaming in the background, "Quick question, literally just 30 seconds. What would you say to someone who?" And then she asked me that question, and I was like, that is not a 30-second question with kids screaming in the background. So I was like, I'm gonna have to call you back. And then she ended up saying that she responded to them. So she was like, don't worry about calling me back. But therefore I didn't really think about it that much, but I feel like I know you probably have thoughts too.
No, I mean, I was just wanted to hear your thoughts because you never answered the questions. But I mean, my thought is like, what is your expectation going into it? Like,
Yeah.
what are you expecting to get from it?
Yeah.
Like, you're reading. Like, what are you reading? Like, are you reading the same thing I'm reading? Of like, yeah, Jesus died on the cross. You were saved from your sins. Like, you're going to eternity because of what I did, and you're reading that, and you don't get anything out of that.
Yeah. I think
Like,
sometimes I read the Bible and I'm like, oh, this is so slow. I've been going through the Old Testament and it was like pulling teeth reading, if I'm being honest. But if you can take the time to like sit and learn the context around what you're reading, I literally just started using ChatGPT to read the Old Testament, and I'll read a chapter and then like ask ChatGPT, as a Christian, what am I supposed to, or what can I learn from Numbers chapter 4? And it's crazy because ChatGPT will be like, at first glance, Numbers chapter 4 seems pretty dry and unappealing, but really there's a lot that you can learn about God's character here. And I'm like, is ChatGPT a Christian? I don't think it is, but I'm sure it would respond that way for a Buddhist question too. But it really was so helpful dissecting scripture. And I think sometimes when you read the Bible, if you're not reading it with the right context. So there have been times when I read the Bible and it's like something that doesn't really make sense, but then I really feel like God himself reveals something to me as I'm reading. And when I read it like that, it gets me excited to read more because that's such a cool experience. But then there are other times that I read it that I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to do the work myself and do the digging to figure out the context on this because nothing's being revealed to me. I'm not really sure what's going on. And when you read the context, there's so much that you can learn about God's character in every chapter, no matter how boring it may seem. And so I don't know what that girl, to your point, what her experience was reading or what she was expecting, but I think like having those tools when you read the Bible is really helpful, and knowing that about the Bible, that sometimes you're going to read it and it's going to be dry. Sometimes you'll get on a roll and you're like pumped to read your Bible, and then other times you do it because you know that you need to, but it feels like more of a grind. But I think having those tools and resources like commentaries or ChatGPT or whatever helps the Bible come to life.
yeah. I feel like God speaks to me like through words or like a phrase, and it's always right when I wake up.
Really?
Yeah, and have I not told you about this?
I'm sure you've told me stories about it, but I didn't know that you would like make that blanket statement about God speaking to you.
Yeah, but I know that because I feel like I'm not smart enough to come up with some of this stuff. And
totally, I feel the same.
Whenever you're dumb, you really feel the Holy Spirit because you know what's the Holy Spirit and what's not, because you know that you're not gonna, you're not coming up with this. But like a couple months back, I got more private, less public, and like I figured out like during that season, I was like in 3 small groups, and I was only getting into my word during the small group time because like I was just busy, and then I had, these small groups where I was getting into the word. So I'm like, oh, that's enough. But I feel like God just wants you wanted me. I mean, I can't speak for everybody. Everybody is in different seasons, obviously, but he just wanted like just me. He wanted me to dive in privately, and I learned so much in that.
So good.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you just get that like words like in the morning, DM me because I want to hear. I've never heard of anybody else getting that.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's really cool. Yeah, that's good. To the point of the question that girl asked, I think, yeah, I would be curious to ask her, like, what are you expecting? Are you expecting?
So you're just stealing my...
Yeah.
That was good.
But,
no, I mean, it's a good question. I think a lot of people, like, early into their faith, they're, like, reading something and they expect something, like a powerful...
feeling.
Yeah. Because you hear a lot of stories about these people getting just, like, ran over by a bus when you read it. It's like, this one thing stands out, and then your life is completely changed.
Yeah. Okay, 2 things to go along with that. Do you have more that you want to say?
No, you go ahead.
2 things. One, I just want to say, I mean, this is probably to some people, this, but if your relationship with God is based on feeling him all the time, that's going to be a really quaky relationship. Like you have to have faith in who he is and his character and just choose to believe things to be true. That's why it's faith. And so sometimes you're not going to be like riding a high or have this crazy feeling or be so fired up, but it's just like, it's a grind of being consistent and being committed once you make that decision. Also, this is a crazy story, but we both at the belonging where we were at church, we were at our friend's church that they church planted in Nashville now, and it's amazing. But I learned so much in our season of life when we were at the belonging, and we did this thing where you like go and you learn about the church and their beliefs, and they baptize everyone in the Holy Spirit. And we were on the way to do this. This is going to sound so crazy to a lot of people, but Davey told me, he was like, I've heard of people, it's in the Bible first off, and I've heard of people getting baptized in the Holy Spirit and it feels like their skin is like burning, like on fire. And I was like, really? I've never heard of that. And he was like, yeah, it's pretty common. And then they said it again when they were baptizing everybody. They were like, which it's different. You're not going in water. They're just praying over everyone. But they said, these are some things that you might experience. And one of the things they said was this burning sensation. And I was just thinking, that's so crazy that some people experience that. I didn't doubt that people experience it. I just thought that's so crazy. And literally, when I say it happened to me, you know, when you're out in this on a sunny day at the beach and it's 100 degrees and you can feel the sun, you can feel your skin burning in the sun. You're like, I'm getting fried right now. That is what I felt like, except we were in a dark church building that was cold and it was nighttime, and my skin felt like it was being sunburnt by the sun in 100-degree weather. It was crazy to the point where I was like, what is happening right now? It was such a wild experience. But I think one of the most powerful sermons I've heard that I go back to a lot is a sermon that was on going back to your moments, like in moments of weak faith, basically having pillars of your personal faith when you have experienced God in an intimate way. And so in the moments when you feel dry and like your faith is dry, you have these moments in your life that you can remember and look back to. And we kind of talked about that at small group last night too. Just the power of remembrance. And I had a note it was Psalm 77 that Kate was reading in small group. And I had a note that said, things are recorded in the Bible for us so that they can be remembered by us. And I wrote down that remembrance silences our fears. And so remembering the things that God's done for you personally, remembering your personal encounters with him, and also remembering the things that he says in the Bible and going back to those. But all of those things encourage me in dry seasons spiritually.
Yeah, we should just have our small group in here and talk.
We should. That would be so fun.
I think we've talked a lot about it, but
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, this was so great. I love that people, number one, we got to talk about so many great things from our life, and something that I want for myself for this podcast is for meaningful stories in our lives to be documented, you know, like this will live on forever. And I really would love to come on and tell the stories of all of our kids being born. And maybe I love hearing other people's birth stories. So I would love to have ours, number one, to share with people, because birth is the most miraculous thing in the whole world. But also just for those things to live in a place for us and our kids and their kids, if they want to hear the story, not like the gory details, but just what the whole thing was like playing out and what we were feeling during that.
Yeah.
So I think we should do another podcast just on our birth stories. Maybe we do it after the baby's born.
All right.
Anyways, this was so awesome. Thank you, honey.
Yeah, thank you. I loved it.
Love you.
Love you.